Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Thank you very much for returning back. We'll now continue with the graduation ceremony. If everyone could please take their seats. Thank you. Could I also ask the teachers please to come back up? So I've got you guys up here and the main chefs down there. شيخ تفضل. أبو عليا تفضل. Could I please ask the Alimiya graduates to line up on my left-hand side, please? Okay, as is our tradition here, when our students graduate and they receive their awards, they also give a short address relating to their studies, the future, etc., or as a reminder, however they please. So if I could please welcome up first Alma Taha. Give him talk first, I think.
I don't know.
Yeah.
What do we do? Yeah?
Talk first. Do it me? Can meet everyone first, inshallah.
بسم الله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. Assalamu alaikum. It's a real pleasure to be here tonight. I'm actually really humbled to be stood here. I wanted to take this opportunity to reflect upon the ASI journey, what it's been like to be a student, the experiences that I've had, and also the ASI ethos that I've come to learn, love, and appreciate. So at ASI, we really delve deep into classical works across the centuries and across an array of subjects, to the extent that at the end, you not only feel familiar with the text itself, but you also have some confidence to delve further into the text, as well as to even teach as well. But at ASI, it doesn't stop there. You're not only immersed in the tradition, they go a step further. I'll give you an example. In one of our modules, Islamic history, we were looking at the formative period of Islam, the first fiery 350 years. And amongst the core texts, the reading list, was a Montgomery Watt. That's the name of the author. I hadn't heard of him before. And I thought to myself, he doesn't sound like a sheikh. Brother Montgomery. Maybe he became Muslim, he didn't change his name. Lo and behold, he wasn't a Muslim. He was a leading academic in the field of Islamic history. At ASI, you learn tradition within a contemporary world context. And this is invaluable for us in our day and age. Looking at our final year at ASI, having studied under Sheikh Akram, and anyone who's studied under Sheikh Akram, I'm sure will echo these thoughts that it really is something special. You know that you are studying under someone with real knowledge. The 4 general topics that we studied, allow me to share them with you. Hadith. We studied the text of Bukhari and Tirmidhi. As a side note, not the whole text. Actually, that's another ASI ethos. Quality over quantity. In fact, we may spend 2 hours, more than 2 hours, on one given hadith. For me, this was hugely important. Several years ago, before ASI, I was actually quite critical of the hadith sciences. I was fairly skeptical. There are so many different hadiths, with so many different levels of authenticity from different scholars, and so many different interpretations for any given hadith. I was left with so many different questions. Lucky for me, the unwritten rule in Sheikh Akram's class is that you must question, you must challenge. You are encouraged to critique, to think independently. And so I was licking my lips. I took full advantage of this. And by the end of the course, of the program, I was left with nothing but admiration and respect for the hadith scholars and what they had contributed to Islam, the legacy they have left. Second, al-mu'allaqat. Again, in my early years studying Arabic, I'd heard about these famous mu'allaqat. Something about some special Jahili poems hung up on the Kaaba. And I thought to myself, one day I might get to understand them. Alhamdulillah, that day came this year. I felt that by the end I was able to comprehend the poems. I was beginning to feel the power, the beauty of the poems and the imagery. And dare I admit it, on some car journeys to work, I begin to recite some of the poems to myself. But you don't need to know what I get up to my own time. Balagha, another one of them Arabic milestones that you hope to reach. We studied Balagha, and we studied the critique of Balagha. I thought, the critique of Balagha? I didn't think Balagha is something that could be critiqued. With Sheikh Akram, mashallah, there's more that can be added to the text. This is another ASI ethos, that we go beyond the text. And this, again, invaluable. And finally, usul al-fiqh. Having studied fiqh and usul al-fiqh with Sheikh Akram, you really find that your mind is opened far and wide. For you are introduced to one scholarly opinion, one methodology, and you think, well, that's it. How can there be any other school of thought? How can there be any other way of thinking? Until you're introduced to the next one. And then you think, hang on a minute, that makes a lot of sense too. And then you're starting to think, well, actually, I'm convinced by this. Until the third one is thrown in, by the end of it, you've got complete respect for the different opinions. And again, another ASI ethos, unity. That the greater perspective is of unity of the Muslims. And so to end, I wanted to say thank you. First and foremost, thank you to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who has given me the power, the ability, the passion to be able to pursue these studies. Thank you to my parents who have sacrificed immensely for me, who have given me so many opportunities in life, and by extension my late grandparents as well, whose tarbiyah, whose upbringing I still feel to this day. A special thank you goes to my wonderful wife as well, who, without whom I wouldn't be stood here today. You've been my support, my rock, my right hand. Just to give you all some context, we had 2 kids in 2 years. And so, you can imagine the immense effort that she put in while I swanned off to lessons. I've got no doubt in saying that the better of the 2 is the one currently sat down. There's actually a running joke between me and my wife. I say to her, I pray that any reward that I might gain from pursuing these studies or maybe teaching, benefiting others, is shared between both of us. She says, no, how about we pray that Allah lets you share my reward for looking after the kids in your absence? Touché. Thank you to my siblings, my relatives, my in-laws, friends, everyone at ASI. You've been absolutely fantastic. All the teachers. This is a fantastic institute. I really encourage everyone to try and get involved. Barakallahu feekum wa jazakumullahu alf khair.
And next, can I welcome Fatima Barakat, please.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalam ala rasulillah. Dear brothers and sisters, teachers, scholars, elders, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. 25 years ago, I was having a conversation with my father, Mufti Barakatullah, about what I would do in the future. What did I want to be? And I told my father that I wanted to be a doctor. I think it's because I watched some movie and it sounded like a really cool and meaningful thing to do. And he said to me all those years ago, what about becoming a scholar? He said, there are many doctors of the physical body in the world. We need more doctors of the spiritual person. And from then onwards, it was my dream to pursue Islamic studies. So today's milestone means a lot to me. Alhamdulillah. I praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for taking me on a very long journey, which started when I was 16, and I went to study Arabic in Egypt, and has culminated in today. Every step of the way, I felt Allah's presence, and I want to thank my parents, especially my mother, who introduced me to how to connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. She's the one who really instilled in us a passion for and a respect for scholars. And my father, who connected me with the Quran and showed me how the Quran spoke to me years ago when we were on Umrah, when he used to stay up late at night telling us stories from Surah Yusuf. And since then, I fell in love with the Quran. I want to thank my husband. My husband is also my teacher. He's also my mentor. He's supported me since we've been married, 20 years nearly, mashallah. in so many ways. I can't list the number of ways that he's supported me. And he's also infused everything with a great sense of humor to help me. And I know the brothers who know him will testify to that. And he's helped keep our family happy and light. I would like to thank my children who've had to be patient. My 4 children, Yusuf, Yahya, Sulaiman, and Ruqayya, who've had to be really patient on Sundays when I used to attend the classes and I used to arrange different things for them. I think they were quite happy that I'd left, actually, to be fair. Well, I'm back now because classes are finished, mashallah. I want to thank my siblings, 2 of whom are here today. I see my siblings as role models. Their achievements never cease to inspire me. So thank you for your support and your du'as. And I must mention my little nieces who are here as well, Lana and Safiya. Thank you for coming and being excited about your auntie graduating. There are so many other people I could thank. I've had many teachers over the years. I've actually studied in other institutes as well. I can't mention all of them, but I want to, if any teachers from other institutes are here today who have taught me, I'd like to thank you as well. And I turn to Al-Salam Institute. MashaAllah, one of the dreams I had was to study abroad. And I began studying in Egypt, but I couldn't stay studying Al-Azhar. Instead, I had to come back to the UK. Alhamdulillah, I got married and I had to pursue my studies here. But looking back, I can see that it was really a blessing. It was a blessing that Allah did not answer my dua of me going abroad and being able to live abroad and study. Because if I had gone abroad, I would not have benefited from the likes of Sheikh Akram. I would not have sat in classes with my own father and the scholars that we benefit from right here in Britain, mashallah. So I feel as though Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created a situation such that I did not have to go abroad, and yet I got a world-class Islamic education right here. So I want to thank Sheikh Akram, I want to thank all of our teachers and all the people behind the scenes at Al-Salam. Thank you for all your hard work. And I will leave you with 5 words, 5 things, and this is for my fellow students at different stages of their studies. I'll leave you with 5 things that I've learned along this way, 5 key things. The first thing I want to say to you, my fellow students, is the fact that you are sitting here today, the fact that you are on the path of knowledge, see that as a sign that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala already wants good for you. Because the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us that when Allah wishes good for a person, He bestows upon them understanding of the deen. And you are upon that path, so know that Allah wants something good for you. My 5 words are perseverance, courage, self-reflection, openness, and critical thinking. Just think of that as one word, critical thinking. Perseverance. Along this path, there are going to be times when you feel like giving up, when you feel like the studies are too much, when life happens, things happen in life, obstacles come your way, and you feel like stopping, or you feel like you won't be able to carry on. But know that the people who achieve things are not necessarily the most talented people. They're not the ones who were born with a silver spoon in their mouth. They are the ones who push through those difficult times and persevere. So my fellow students, persevere, have sabr, and persevere through those difficult times. Courage. As a student, you need to have courage, the courage to question. So many times I've been in a class, and I'm the only one who's asking lots and lots of questions. And after the class, the students will say to me, "Thank you for asking the questions." It seems as though many students are very shy to ask questions. And it's true, when you ask a question, it's a risk. You feel like, people might think you're stupid, or it might be a stupid question or whatever. But you see, the only way to gain knowledge, the only way to make sure you understood something is to ask those questions. So have the courage to speak up and ask questions, and have the courage to speak the truth. In our society, there are many ideologies, many vying for each other, vying for our attention and our obedience and our allegiance. As people who are seeking knowledge, it becomes our duty to go out there and have the courage to present Islam to others, to show people another way, to show people another way of thinking. So we need to have courage as people who are seeking knowledge. Self-reflection. Bringing oneself to account is key as a student. You know, knowledge brings with it a lot of honor. People respect you. People look up to you. But we can never forget that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He knows our reality. He knows our faults. He knows our shortcomings. And so we as students must keep making an inventory of, you know, our strengths and our weaknesses. We must be very conscious of our ibadat and how to improve them. As one of my former teachers used to say, if your knowledge is above average, your ibadah should be above average. And we need to hold ourselves as students of knowledge to a higher standard. Self-reflection. Openness. Openness, the willingness to consider other ways of thinking, other points of view. That's one of the wonderful things about Al-Salam Institute, that we're not just focusing on one particular group or one particular way of thinking, one particular school of thought. There is a respect for the plurality of schools of thought in Islam. And so as a student, if you come to class thinking you already know everything, making up your mind about everything, and then critiquing the teacher or the class with that mindset, you'll never learn. You'll never be able to benefit fully from what the teacher has to offer. And you might miss something that you actually needed, a new way of thinking. So you must be open-minded and willing to study with numerous teachers. And again, one of the great things that Sheikh Akram said to us was, he's never forced us to follow his opinion. And that's quite refreshing, because I've been to classes where you're kind of dictated to, as in, you've got, this is it. It's my way or the highway. But with Sheikh Akram, if you argue or critique something that he said, he always says, okay, do your research. He'll say, you know, do your own research. This is my conclusion. And I found that very, very refreshing. And hopefully I'm going to take that with me when I become a teacher. Critical thinking. Or as Sheikh Akram always says in class, think properly. I know everyone's laughing because we've heard it so many times, right? Think properly, Sheikh Akram says. And I think that's another very refreshing thing that Sheikh taught us. Whatever you read, whatever you hear, assess it critically. Weigh it up. Don't be sheep who just follow somebody because they sound good, or they're part of your group, or they're part of your way of thinking. Think critically. So with these 5 qualities, I think, inshallah, and I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will grant you success. Perseverance, courage, self-reflection, openness, critical thinking. And with that, I will leave you. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless all of you. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant you knowledge that benefits you and me as well. And let us and the other graduates continue upon this path, because when it comes to knowledge, you have to be in it for the long haul. It doesn't end today. And with that, inshallah, I will leave you. Subhanak Allahumma wa bihamdika. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta. Astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.
Can I also now call Rubil Ahmed, please, to the stage?
So, when's dinner? So I'll try to keep this quick and short. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen wa salatu wa salamu ala Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. First of all, I'd like to say thanks and all praise belongs to Allah Azza wa Jal, without whose help, mercy, guidance, and all the blessings that He gives us, this will not be possible. As Allah Azza wa Jal says, يَرْفَعُ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مِنْكُمْ وَالَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْعِلْمَ دَرَجَاتٍ. So Allah is the one who raises. We don't raise ourselves. We just try, we're on the path, we pick a mountain, but ultimately Allah is the one who raises us and brings us to these positions we're in now. So all praise and thanks to Him. And secondly, I'd like to send blessings and salutations upon our beloved Prophet ﷺ, who without his da'wah and his hard work, his sacrifices, in peace and war, we would not be Muslim today. We would not know what this Islam is. So he deserves all the blessings and all the salutations. I'd like to thank all the teachers for putting in the time and making effort to teach us. I'd like to especially thank Sheikh Akram Nadwi, who, if you know, we study hadith, and if you know the science of hadith, Sheikh is truly one of the masters in this field, and it's been an honor to learn and gain ilm in this field from Sheikh. And my experience with Sheikh and learning from him, there's so many things I've learned, so many things, and so many gems. And one gem I could share, I guess, is, when we study balagha, for example, there's three positions of majaz, metaphor. I don't want to go too deep, but just a quick, one position is there's no metaphor in the language, in Arabic, no metaphor. And one is there's metaphor, and you have to be careful with how you apply it. And the last is the extreme, there's metaphor in everything. And when you say I hit Zayd, you didn't really hit Zayd, you hit a part of Zayd. But let's ignore that. But the one position where the majaz is not in the Quran or anywhere. I read about this, and prominent figures held this view, like Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah. But I didn't understand it when I read it. I reflected on it, I thought about it, I discussed it, but it just never clicked. And I remember one class, Sheikh just briefly mentioned it. And without getting technical, as I said, a word is like a container with many meanings, and that meaning only comes out when the context is used. When that happened, it just clicked. It was a light bulb moment. I was like, wow, I get it now. I get the argument. So it's gems like that and moments like that really refine my thinking and my level and in my journey in Arabic language and the deen as a whole. And if I was to walk away with something important, like I said, I've walked away from ASI with something, one thing from the Shaykh and in my journey, because there's many things. But one of the main things I can say that will stay with me, inshallah, for the rest of my life is the ability to think. And the Shaykh's emphasis on thinking. And his linking of thinking to Iman, which is very refreshing and very, is a new, insightful perspective that was like, whoa, like linking thinking with Iman, and how the more you think about your deen, the more you understand it, the more your Iman in it grows, the more your love for it grows. Just like anything, the more you understand, Shaykh's example, if you understand a computer, how to use it, the more you learn about it, the more your Iman gets increased in it. And thinking is so important because that's the thing that empowers you. You have to remember that, for me, for you, your Islam is your Islam. It's not Shaykh's Islam, it's not this person's Islam. You and your deen is for you. So you must make an effort to use the mind that Allah Azza wa Jalla has blessed you with to arrive at what He wants. And it is the lack of thinking that I believe in our society that has led to the decline that we see, and the blind following, and the taqleed, and the lack of accountability. So for me, someone who, who loves a tyrant, no matter what motivations he has, whether it's fear or a benefit, or someone who loves a sheikh because he loves and respects the sheikh, so much to the extent that if the sheikh makes a mistake and does something wrong, that he is blinded by that love. Whereas when we use thinking, we can develop a criteria and a truth that we can measure all situations by. And we can judge the reality that we live in today by. And that's what knowledge with thinking gets us. And that gives me a segue into knowledge and what do we do with knowledge in our reality today. Because knowledge isn't just amassing huge, reading many books and amassing knowledge. It has a function in the reality that we live in today. So what many people fall into the trap of doing is we learn and study the old school, classical forefathers, who were the pioneers of the knowledge, and we studied it. But what we try to do is we try to import the context that they lived into our context now. Now, what do I mean by that? So someone will be studying, for example, as an example, how is the Quran created and not created, and look into the Mu'tazili philosophy and look at what did they believe, let me find the refutations for it. And they've spent so much time that by the end of it, they look around and go, where are the Mu'tazilis? Where are they? I want to discuss with them. But they don't exist. Because that was a problem and a reality that existed in that time. And this is what we need to look into our time and see what's the ideas and thoughts that exist and how can we engage them with our ilm. And we know there's different ideas that we engage with atheism, the secularism, liberalism, all of the feminism, all of these isms are bombarding our society, our children in schools. It's everywhere. Now, you can't study your knowledge and go, okay, where's the Qadariyah, where are they? I'm going to go look for them. And I don't mean no disrespect to anyone, but we have to study these ideas because they are affecting our children. There's people that doubt the existence of God. There are people that say, how do you know the Quran is actually from Allah? How can you prove that? Hadith, a huge can of worms. How can you verify and authenticate hadith? And people are, the iman is wobbly. And this is what the society we live in. So we need to learn the knowledge for ourselves, number one. And then we need to look at the thoughts and ideas that exist in reality and engage with those thoughts and ideas. And provide a clear and concise, powerful argument and counteract these ideas. Not wishy-washy, apologetic, weak arguments. We need to learn and equip ourselves to challenge the tide that is rising against us, especially in the context that we live in. And that brings me on to my third point about knowledge and how, when we look at the past, like Imam Bukhari, rahimahullah, you think now, what he did, you'd think about it as, it's maybe quite common sense. You just take all of the Sahih Hadith and you make a book and you compile it. In our time, it seems like common sense. But in his time, if you think about what he was doing, it was revolutionary. For him to go, I'm going to go on a journey and collect all the sound hadith on the criteria that I will stick by. And I'm going to make it into a book, and that is going to last forever. That is pretty revolutionary thinking. And that is the type of thinking we like today. Whether it's Shafi with Usul al-Fiqh, again, it's the creativity. It's building on the knowledge of the past, packaging it in a way that can go forward. We lack that today. There are so many, we look at scholars and ilm and it's up here. No one really understands it. No one knows how to engage with it. But we lack that creativity to take the knowledge and package it and build it in a way where we can develop it further, like how our forefathers did and our predecessors did, rather than just studying fiqh books 100 years ago, which was relevant to them at the time, but where are the fiqh books of today? And this is the type of understanding and usage that we need to apply with our knowledge that we learn. And on to the point of students who are studying now and they're on this journey, I say to them that, I was teaching some of my students yesterday, and I said to them, when we were going through some sarf points, and when you study something like sarf, you get confused, you probably understand like 60, 70%. But I said to them, listen guys, you're on this journey. You have to make a choice. You only live once. You have to make a choice that this will be my life. The path of ilm and amal will be my life. Because if that's your path, then you're going to come across this again. You're going to revise it again. You're going to read it again with Mullah Shaykh. You're going to teach it one day in your life. So don't worry if you understand 60% of it now, but start the journey now. Because this is your one chance, your one opportunity to use Allah, the opportunity we have, the mind and the reality we live in, to really serve Him and worship Him. And you will make mistakes. Don't worry about making mistakes. You'll be like, I don't get it. Don't worry, just keep going. You know, as the Jahili poet Zuhair ibn Abi Sulma, he said, إِنَّ السَّفَاهَةَ الشَّيْخِ لَا حِلْمَ بَعْدَهُ وَإِنَّ الْفَتَى بَعْدَ السَّفَاهَةِ يَحْلُمُ. You know, when a shaykh, when he makes a mistake, it's very hard for him to correct. There's no wisdom he can learn from it. And there's many reasons. One, he's old. He might die soon. One is he's very stubborn. You know, old people are set in their ways. So it's very limited. He has a very limited scope to change and improve. But إِنَّ الْفَتَى بَعْدَ السَّفَاهَةِ يَحْلُمُ. But the young man or woman, he has a chance to make a mistake and learn from it, and grow and develop. And that's what this is a Jahili poet, and look at the philosophy that it applies and stands today. And I'd just like to finish finally again with something I came across last night. Imam Shafi's poem, and I'll just quickly briefly explain it in regards to knowledge and striving hard for it. It's not easy. If it was easy, everyone would be scholars and everyone would pick up a book and they'll be masters. Whatever mountain you climb, whatever science you pick, it's always going to have challenges. So this poem was like, wow, this is something I can, inshallah, pass on to you guys today. And Imam Shafi rahimahullah, he said, بِقَدْرِ الْكَدِّ تُكْتَسَبُ الْمَعَالِي. In proportion to your hard work will be the standard you meet. So if you put in more hard work and graft, that's the level you'll raise and get. وَمَنْ طَلَبَ الْعُلَى سَحِرَ اللَّيَالِي. And the one who seeks the high, path, his nights will be, bereft or empty of sleep. He will lack sleep because he's sacrificing. وَمَنْ رَامَ الْعُلَى مِنْ خَيْرِ كَدٍّ. And whoever seeks the high goals without hard work, أَضَاعَ الْعُمْرَ فِي طَلَبِ الْمُحَالِ. He's wasted his whole life seeking the impossible because he's not putting any hard work or effort in. تَرُومُ الْعِزَّ ثُمَّ تَنَامُ لَيْلًا. You seek honor, but you sleep at night. يَغُوصُ الْبَحْرَ مَنْ طَلَبَ اللَّآلِ. Surely the one who seeks pearls goes deep diving into the sea. And this is the path and the journey that we've taken, and this is the mentality that we should work hard and strive. And remember, like at the end of the day, we're all going to be a sum of actions, and those actions should be in line with what Allah Azza wa Jal wants. We should want to please Him, and inshallah, when we all stand in front of Him, we want to be in a position where we say, I did my best in the reality that I was given, and I used the mind to the best of my ability, and I served you, Ya Allah Azza wa Jal. And with that, I leave you guys. Wa akhiru da'wana and alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.
And then finally, can I please welcome Fatima Chaudhry to the stage, please? Thank you.
Bismillah. I begin by praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and sending salutations on our beloved final prophet and messenger Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. As-salamu alaykum to you all. It is an honor to be here today, alhamdulillah, and receive this, Shahada al-Alimiyah from Shaykh Akram. Jazakallahu khairan. I would like to thank my parents who are here today, alhamdulillah, for everything they have done for me and for teaching me the basics of the deen of Islam since my childhood. More specifically, here in supporting my in supporting and facilitating my studies in Arabic and Islamic sciences. I am ever grateful for that, and jazakumullahu khairan. I would like to thank Shaykh Akram, who I see as a sort of father figure, and from whose vast knowledge and experience I have benefited from mainly in the past couple of years here in the advanced classes at Al-Salam, alhamdulillah. I would also like to thank the other teachers here who I've benefited from hugely during my studies at Al-Salam. Jazakallahu khairan. Prior to continuing my Alimiyya studies at Al-Salam, I studied the earlier part of the course, Arabic and some of the Islamic sciences, at a place quite close to here, Ibrahim College, that at least some of you may be familiar with. So I would like to give credit where it's due and thank my teachers from EC who I benefited from greatly as well. I would like to thank my family members and relatives, friends who have supported me in my studies, some of whom are here today, alhamdulillah. And also, not to forget the hardworking admin team who are constantly working to support the studies as well. Jazakumullahu khairan to you all. I see this in many ways as the beginning of my journey in Islamic studies, as I have more of an idea of the sources of the deen, and I'm able to refer to the sources directly in Arabic, alhamdulillah, and I'm endeavoring to do so, alhamdulillah. I would like to share a few observations that I came across during these studies, inshallah. These may sound quite simple and are in many ways, but I have seen that these happen quite often, so felt it's worth mentioning. Hopefully it's of benefit. So firstly, about just generally about communication, and that it's best to communicate openly, clearly and directly, and of course honestly, especially in matters that are more serious. Many a time I've come across people communicating rather than communicating with someone. So this many a time means making assumptions, usually if not always negative, and this is the case especially when people do not know one another very well. So many things become lost in translation, and many a times things could mean different things. So this causes unnecessary confusion, avoidable confusion. It's always best to ask, to clarify. So it kind of relates to the ayah in the Quran, فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Ask those who know if you do not know. Or to verify information, at least, is best, especially for serious matters. The next part is generally about competency, and staying within one's competency. Many times I've come across people give answers to questions without adequate knowledge in that field. So this isn't only pertaining to knowledge in Islamic sciences, but also other sciences and disciplines. And this again causes a lot of unnecessary confusion, and people sometimes, the average person, may make decisions about life based on these answers. I feel it's best to say I don't know, as saying I don't know is also an answer, and maybe referring to someone who is more knowledgeable in that field, if possible. So this works both ways, where the one who's asking should try and find out about the background or the educational background of the person they're asking before considering, and whilst considering asking their query or question. So this also relates back to the ayah that was mentioned. So just to explain that, I have a background in sciences and have seen this happen often with knowledge that is, of course, well established in science, and not the theories and hypotheses and information that is not well established in science. Another point just about just in these sorts of scenarios about keeping professional boundaries, being respectful, mutually respectful. So always trying to mutually respectful in a way not to kind of intend to shame someone whilst correcting them and so forth. Finally, just a note for those who are either studying Arabic and Islamic sciences already or are planning to start, that it is a bit of a struggle in many ways, but it does get sweeter and more enjoyable, alhamdulillah. I hope what has been mentioned was of benefit. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant, astaghfirullah wa atubu ilayk. Jazakumullahu khairan for listening. Barakallahu feekum. Assalamu alaikum.
Jazakumullah khairan to all of you and for all our participants. Now, the next item on my schedule says starters, and it seems very sad to let the last word be to a kebab. So I thought if we ask Sheikh Akram maybe to come and a dua or final words, rather than just to leave it with starters.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. While listening to the graduates, it came to my mind that really, people in the world, they are thirsty. Many young Muslims, they really want to learn, to study, but they don't have any place to study. I was recently in India, and I visited some universities there. So the students said to me that we study in the universities, but the ulama don't come here. And we can't go to madrasas. If you can provide something as you do in England, if you can provide in India, so we can learn. 99% students, they study in the modern universities. They don't go to madrasa. So who is going to look after them? Who is going to take care of their need? So alhamdulillah, you can see really how encouraging is that somebody, doctor, engineer, they study, they become alim, and after that they're going to worship their Lord, call people to Islam, and give fatwa, answer the questions, help believers. So alhamdulillah, this really makes very clear that there's much need, in the society, to provide Islamic education. So alhamdulillah, Al-Salam is doing one thing, but we need to make this effort much more intensive, inshallah. So, I don't want to make much longer. We have been actually listening to so many people, and just make dua. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina wa Mawlana Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa barik wa sallim. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار اللهم إنا نسألك علما نافعا وعملا صالحا ورزقا حلالا واسعا وشفاء من كل داء اللهم اجعلنا هداة مهديين اللهم اهدنا واهد بنا اللهم صل على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وبارك وسلم برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.
I really thought we were going to be on schedule. I thought we were going to put it back.
No, inshallah. Alhamdulillah, we made it.